I like you a lot, but you gotta step up. I'm through trying to tell you.
Hello, welcome to the Daisy Dates podcast, where we talk all things dating, of course, situationships, flings, heartbreaks, summer flings, which will be coming very soon. I'm Daisy.
And I'm Shah.
And today is exactly that, situationships we're covering.
Yes, it's come to the time where we speak about situationships, which is always not good. I feel like it's definitely not good for the women. I never hear men talk about situationships like we do.
I'm not sure they would name it situationships. I think they're absolutely winning they think they're absolutely winning when they're in a situationship, but women think of it negatively as a situationship.
Yeah, boys are like, I'm just sleeping with this girl and she don't even, don't have to be a boyfriend, don't have to take her out much, just sleep with her, it's great. And we're like, oh my God, I miss him so much.
Can I text him at the weekend? I don't know.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, lucky you, I think, if you don't know what it is. Situationship, well, they can be fun. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
Situationship is, it can be like a kind of relationship, probably sexual, but it doesn't really have a label. So neither of you are kind of labelling it, so you're just not sure where you're at.
But it is like everything but a relationship. I feel situationships, it's different to like just friends with benefits. It's very much you're sharing like a lot about yourself and you're doing everything but going on dates and saying that you're exclusive.
And I think that's what makes it difficult, because I have a friend that says if you're gonna, have a fling, don't let them stay the night with you, don't let it get there, and then you don't get that attachment. Whereas situationships, if you're doing the sharing, the deep stories, I've had an experience with someone that's told me really deep things about them and their life that I thought was, him sharing because he really liked me, but that isn't always what it means.
It's not. Unfortunately for us, it's not.
So, do you want to go first on your experience? Because I haven't heard this.
Okay, I'll go first. And this will be a surprise, I think, for Daisy, because I'm very much flippant when it comes to boys and I can cut things off very quick. And with this boy, it was very different. I'm going to call him Bob.
Okay.
So I spoke to Bob on Bumble. I met him on Bumble. His name really wasn't Bob. I met him on Bumble. And we spoke, and I remember after 3 days feeling like, this could be somebody here. Like, we have got very similar morals and what we want for the future. And we spoke about religion, and we spoke about our thoughts on marriage, and we spoke about our thoughts on children very soon on, like very early on, like day 3. And the more we spoke, it was so deep. Like, it was the deepest chats that I've ever had with anybody, and it just flowed. And there was not one point where I was bored, and I get bored easily. Like, it's one of my problems. I was never bored, and I couldn't wait to see him, and I started imagining my future with him, and it was all very perfect romance, not shiny whatsoever, like not usually my vibe. I kept it quite quiet from my friends too until about 2.5 weeks in. So we'd been speaking for 2.5 weeks and we still hadn't met each other, and I think that's quite a long time. And it was just that our schedules just didn't align, and he only lived like 10 minutes up the road from me, but we just didn't manage to secure a date because I was away a lot. And then we decided we were going to meet, and I had told my best friend, like, I think this could be like a twin flame almost. It felt like it was mad even admitting it now. And unfortunately, when I met him, I was a lot bigger than I am now, and like weight-wise, and I don't think my profile aligned with that. And it was because I didn't realise that I was a bigger girl. I really didn't know. Like, I would never go into something thinking I was going to be a catfish, but I did not know that he would see me any differently. I didn't realise, and now I can see it. So I remember walking out to his car, and I remember his face looked a bit like shocked, but not shocked, but like dropped, but not dropped.
So was your dating profile just your face then? Or?
Every photo was just my face.
Okay.
That I can remember. I didn't take photos of my body at that point, but I did think I did look like the photos, and I just must not have. And now I can look back losing the weight, and I can look and be like, oh no, you weren't being true to what you was like on your profile. But I do think that maybe our conversations was enough to keep him and not care that but no, he obviously felt like maybe he was tricked and deceived. So the first day, after we finished the first day, I wasn't like, this is my true love. I just kind of felt like, I don't know how I feel. And he messaged me like, what did you think? And I was like, I thought you were really fit in real life. And that embarrasses me now because he obviously didn't think the same of me. And then he went weird straight after the date, and he ended it about 3 days later and was like, yeah, I don't want another date. And he said, I really thought it was going to be you, Sean. Like, I thought it was going to be you.
From talking, based on the talking?
Yeah, based on our conversation. He was like, I
Gosh.
thought it was going to be you. He's like, I really did. I thought you was it. He was like, obviously I'm not ready for a relationship, which I just know wasn't true now. I know it was because of how I looked, which is a shame. And then 2 or 3 weeks went by and we didn't speak. And my friend ended up being ballsy to a boy she was talking to and going to his house and sleeping with him that night. And when she got back, I was like, should I do the same? This is where the situationship always starts, because I've now given him an out. Like, so I messaged him and said, what are you doing tomorrow? He said, oh, I might be going out, but I'm free afterwards. And I was like, well, I have a free house, come over. And that's where the situationship starts then, because I've automatically took myself off the dating scene with him. Like, he's not going to have to take me on another date. I've given it up easy. I've told him to come round. He said, are you booty calling me? I said, yeah. So I'd already started that on the front of, okay, now I've just made this sex. So he came round and we spoke for hours and hours and hours until about 4 a.m. He didn't try anything on with me. And then at 4 a.m, I was like, right, I am actually here for sex.
Let's get down to it.
Yeah, like, we are going to have sex. So I slept with him. And then he messaged me straight away afterwards, after he left, and said, I'm obviously not the type of boy that would just sleep with you and not speak to you again. Like, it was fun. And I was like, well, if you want to do it again, let me know. And then from there, we started seeing each other a couple of times a week, talking every single day, calling every single day. And we also made it exclusive as well. But was never a relationship, and he had all of he had me without having to put a label on it, and he could do what he wanted if he wanted to.
So how did you make it exclusive?
I was on a night out and I messaged him and said, can I just know, like, because I'm out, I went out a lot more than him, I had a busier social life than him. And I was like, are we in a position where we're not sleeping with other people, or obviously, like, what's the vibe? Like, just because I'm out.
An exclusive fling type thing,
are we, like, what are we doing? And he was like, well, I would rather you not sleep with anybody else. I slept with somebody else that night, but we move on from that one. I slept with somebody else that night. I think situationship just makes it feel like so many games are being played.
Wait, so what makes you think that he originally didn't like you because of your weight? Was that ever a conversation?
It wasn't a conversation, but there was one. Why would he can sleep with me? He can spend all his time with me. He can call me. He can text me. So it obviously wasn't my personality. Why was it that he didn't want me to be his girlfriend? Why did I not get taken on a second date? And one of the things that he said on our first date, we went and got a drink, and I was like, I'll have a Coke. And he was like, full fat. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I'd never drink full fat Coke. And I was like, whoa, judgy son. I didn't realise you were the kind of boy that was going to judge. And at the time, I just thought maybe he was conscious about his body.
Yeah.
I didn't think it had anything to do with me. And then another time we was on the phone, and I was like in the car waiting to go to the gym. I said, listen, I've got to go now. For people that aren't watching on YouTube, I'm holding up my hand like a phone. I was like, I've got to go now. I've got to go to the gym. And he went, you don't go to the gym, do you?
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, okay.
Yeah. And then another time we were in bed, and he was like, you only ever wear black, don't you? And when you're bigger, you do only wear black because it's the most flattering colour for you. So I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, I've noticed. And then when we ended it, he messaged me when I started to lose weight, and he texted me saying, don't mean this in a bad way, but have you lost some weight?
Okay, so he had, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, a little bit taken aback at that.
Yeah, I was taken aback when when I started to realise, because I wasn't putting this all together, and I didn't think I was big. And also, like, I'm big for a reason. I was on steroids for 7 years, and that's why I was able to drop the weight so quickly, is because it was because of medication, but not like he cared or was interested to know why I was bigger. Not like it matters, but there was a reason behind it, but he wasn't interested in knowing it. He just obviously thought I was a bigger girl, and I really believe that he wouldn't want to show me off to his friends or family because I was bigger. I started putting it all together once I'd lost the weight, and I got the message saying, oh, I'm not being funny, but like, have you lost weight? And I was just thinking, the weight was a lot for you, wasn't it, Bob?
Bob. I forgot we named him Bob. I was too drawn into the story.
So yeah, that's the, like, obviously there's more to it than that, and we'll get into it a little bit more, but that's like the basis of my situationship. It was intense, and it was also like a sad realisation about pretty privileged, because I think now that if I had met him how I look now, it'd be a completely different story.
You think that, see, I'm going to disagree.
Do you?
You think he might have had a relationship with you based on...
I think for him, I had everything.
Oh, okay.
But he just didn't like how I looked.
Fair enough. I think, though, that guys have to be in the exact right place, and then a relationship
He's
is on
got a
their
girlfriend
terms.
now, and this wasn't that long ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He got a girlfriend pretty shortly after.
I think guys overthink a lot, and I think maybe he could think, what would my friends think if I was with someone bigger, if his friends would judge something like that. Because I've had a guy say to me, actually, in a situationship, to be fair, I was 22 and he was 28.
Okay.
And he said, Daisy, when I sit with I really want to go somewhere with you, but if I took you home to my family, they wouldn't take me seriously because you're 22. And at the time I was thinking, what are you going on about? But now I'm his age, looking back at like when I see guys that are 28 dating 22-year-olds, I'm like, what are they doing dating a 22-year-old? You know, they're quite young, maybe still at uni, just graduated. Why would they not want a woman that's, you know, it's a bit more financially stable, on the same path, generally speaking, typically. So now I kind of get what he meant looking back.
But that can be rationalised, of course. You can look back now, but I cannot look back and think, I don't want to take somebody home because they're bigger. Because if I like somebody, I like somebody. Because I go for boys that aren't traditionally the most best looking boys ever, and I have friends that are being like, I don't think he's good looking at all, but I don't care because I like them. So maybe it wouldn't be different, but it seemed to me like I had everything for him, but the way that I looked, it felt like I had everything.
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess there has to be a reason if he did get a girlfriend a little later.
Yeah.
It's a really weird one, a situation when they make it really clear that they don't want anything. For me, your situation was quite close to it. Potentially, you feel it could have become a relationship because he was at an age and a time where he was ready. For me, summer fling that I had last year, I think the only reason I was able to have it as a healthy situationship that didn't get like too far or upset anyone was because he was younger. So he was 21. But before we judge that, he was very, very fit.
I believe you.
And he lied about his age to me. So I thought he was 25.
Okay, that happened to me before, Yeah,
so he lied. So at 25, I thought, yeah, that's fine. And he was a rugby player. He was built, like beautiful body, unreal. And, we're oversharing. The best in bed I've ever had.
Really? Ever?
For a 21-year-old, yeah.
I know, right? 21-year-old boy.
And he was experienced. So I had heard stories of his where, you know, in lockdown, he'd been going to people's houses and like just getting them out in his van type thing. Like he'd been a little bit of a rascal, but with me, I was like the first person for him that he actually had a little bit of commitment to. Yeah. So again, we were exclusive. We both said like, we're not doing this for anyone else. It would literally be like whenever I wanted him, he would come round, but we'd also have dinner together. He'd take me out for a drink. So we did that stuff. We had really nice chats. We cuddled and stuff. It was actually, for the time I was in, the perfect situation. And this is where we shouldn't always think of it negatively, because if you're both in that space and you both know what it is, I was really in that space. And I was also like, I'm never going to be with a 21-year-old.
But I think that is true. It's definitely a situationship, because I had a friends with benefits for 2.5 years that I didn't like him that much personality-wise. We didn't have anything to talk about. We were just great in bed together. So it kept me coming back and we were friends and it was fine. But I could never have been with him anyway, so it was easy peasy. He was 21, your person was 21, so you knew you wasn't going to go any further.
Exactly, and I think you need something like that.
It felt like and he didn't, now that I look back, and I actually ended it because he was boring in bed, and I thought, if this is a situationship and all I'm never going to have a boyfriend out of it, then I might as well get something out of it. I'm not even getting that, so that's why I ended up ending it anyway. And
that's when you know you do also really like someone as well, because if the chemistry isn't there in like a bedroom situation, I've really liked people where we've been having like awful sex.
Yeah, it was boring.
But I really like them, and that's when you know you do like them, because I've had people say, for example, another situation, which I didn't assume was a situation, but it definitely is that. Someone I've been on 4 dates with that I really did like, he struggled in that area.
Really?
A few times. I don't know why, like whether it was performance nerves. It wasn't always working is the politest way to put it, which is absolutely fine. I think you've got to be patient with someone. It's science, isn't it? Like, I don't get offended. It's just science. But he never really understood why. But considering that happened, I had a few girls say to me, gosh, I wouldn't see him again if it didn't work, because they would feel too insecure to go back there. But I was like, no, I'm fine. And that's how I knew I really liked him, because we hadn't had the chemistry in bed. We'd actually just had the chemistry personality. Yeah, in person.
Yeah, and it's not that I did like Bob a lot. It just got to the point where I started to realise these little things that he'd been saying. And I was thinking, you know what, like, if I'm not good enough for you because of the way I look, then like, I'm not even getting the good sex out of it anyway. So I might as well say, I feel like you really just, and I do believe that if I think he thought, let's leave it for as long as possible. I might like her enough to be her boyfriend in the end. I knew I was losing weight at that point and thought, you're not getting me when I'm at my best point, you're not. I'm just going to end it before that even starts.
It's a weird viewpoint, that, because, you know, I've had situationships where it could have gone somewhere and it hasn't, but I can't think of a reason for it.
Really?
Yeah.
So you need to tell us about one of yours.
I've got a few really. Should I do my most recent one?
Do your most recent?
Well, we obviously had like 4 amazing dates. And I think I was a little bit love bombed, to be honest, which a love coach has actually told me that I was. He was saying all the right things, planning future stuff, telling me such deep things about himself and his family. He'd had a loss in the family. So he opened up about that. You know, I'm talking like a tear in the eye and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this guy's emotionally mature.
That's intense.
Stable, telling me about this, like, wow. And even when he broke it off, I said to him, like, what? Like, you told me this. I thought we had so much there. He was like, oh no, I just tell... I will always tell people that if I feel comfortable, and you make me feel comfortable. And I'm like, I'm not sure that is, you do go out of your way after 4 dates to tell people such personal things. He'd made it very clear he wanted a partner, a wife, babies quite soon. Someone told me he sold a life to me. He was making out he was this perfect person. And there's something new, another dating trend, of course there is. When will they stop? Where men are asking you what you want, specifically to understand what you want so that they can play you into that situation. Yeah. So he called me before our first date, because we met on Tinder, and said, I'm looking for this, what are you looking for? And this is where he knew then exactly what I wanted and could play to that even if he didn't want it. I'm not saying this is what he did and that he's manipulating, but I've read up on it, and people have said when a guy asks you now what you're looking for, you just need to say, I'm not sure yet, so we'll get to know each other and I'll see what you can, like, what we're good for, kind of thing. And that's a better answer, other words.
And do you think that, you carry on to maybe the most recent time, because it ended for a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, it ended, but then it's like carried on. So he's breadcrumbed me a little bit, because we've been having phone calls. He's told me that we'll see each other the next bank holiday, which has just passed, and he just didn't get back to me. He hasn't even read the message for a whole week where I said, yeah, Monday then, call me in the week to let me know. He just has left me unread. And when a week and a bit has gone by, I assume that's going to be unread forever. So I've clearly been archived, and he's put that to the back. But I know when he's in a space where he is more ready, he says, he's put a time limit on it. He's sorting his stuff out, getting a house. He's ready in August. A few months away.
You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, so he's literally said, I'd love you to come and see my house in August.
So I'm busy in August.
So I'm like, all right, 3 months away.
What do you think this is?
He's like lingering me there. And this is a different type of situationship where we're not necessarily seeing each other and meeting up, but it's the breadcrumb type where you're in this situation. So I haven't been looking elsewhere for somewhere else, because I'm like, oh, well, we had this really special connection.
So what, you think you could wait until August?
I'm not waiting until August.
Don't wait until
Of course
August.
No, I promise I'm not. Obviously, at the back of my mind, I was like, well, if we met up on the bank holiday and it was good, I wouldn't go out of my way to meet anyone. And we had agreed that on the phone recently. We were like, let's not go out of our way. And if we both happen to be single, you know, we're both off the apps. But obviously, that isn't what's happened.
Yeah, and I feel like when it's that situation, what happens is you wait and then they get a girlfriend and you're like...
I could put money on him having a girlfriend in like the next, like it will be August, and then I think the month after that he'll have a girlfriend. And it would just be one of them where you're like, and it is, sometimes that's where I think it is just all in their timing. A relationship is on a guy's cards always. Once they say they're ready, they can get one.
Do you think? Because I think men think it's the opposite way around, that we have our choice of men and we have a choice of who we pick, and that's how they see it. That when I talk to boys, that's what they say. Like, they feel like we have the choice of anybody that we want. And it doesn't feel like that as a girl. It doesn't feel like we do.
Well, let's face it, if we really put ourselves out there and we weren't fussy and we said to every man we matched to down dating app, do you want to come around later? they probably would. So I think a man generally means a woman can get whoever they want in that way, because if you put it on a plate for a guy, most men would take it. But if you've got standards and you're actually looking for a relationship and you're looking for a high quality man, certain things you're looking for, it's really hard for a man to match up with that. A woman can want a relationship, but the man needs to be completely ready to go into it.
Yeah, and I think because women are so selective nowadays, and it's from the episode before, we said statistically we're being more selective. I think situationships for us are just as hard to get through as a normal breakup would be. And I never thought I'd say that, because again, I am very flippant and I've had friends with benefits, but me ending the situationship last year felt as close to a heartbreak as I'll probably get for a while, maybe. Do you think it's just as hard now with a situationship, or do you feel like when you're in the relationship then it's harder to get over?
Controversial question, because obviously if someone's just come up for like an 8-year relationship, they're going to be crushed. But I have had a few friends check in on me a lot about my most recent situation. And I'm like, girls, I'm fine. And then I know, but they've all said, and actually one guy friend has said, I know that sometimes it can be harder because it's the what if, you never got to the point of a relationship. So I think in a situationship, I idolise the person more and you think they're more ideal, because then you've already planned what could have been. So you assume that if, for me, I've only had like 4 great dates with that person. So I'm assuming that I know him in that time. And if every date was like that, it'd be amazing. Obviously, if we were 4 months down the line, I might have got to know him and he might have had some awful traits, or, the distance might not have worked, or there's so many things that come into it. But based on 4 dates, you idolise it and you make him the ideal man. And I do 100% agree with you. I think a situationship, something that hasn't been able to develop, can be so much harder to get over.
Yeah, it is the what if. And for mine I'm so glad that the universe made him say those comments about my weight, because if I didn't think it was about my weight, I would really struggle with why it ended, or why it wasn't a relationship, why he didn't want me to be his girlfriend. I feel like even if the reason was not 100% correct, which I do think it is, then at least I've got a reason in my head as to why it didn't work out, and it was something that I couldn't change then. Whereas if you have no closure and you have no idea why, especially when they get a girlfriend a month later, and you're like, okay, so what's the difference between me and her then? What did she have that I didn't?
So hard.
It's hard to be the stepping stone girl all the time.
That's why, and a lot of women feel that way.
Yeah.
I met some women recently at the gym that felt that way. I think for me, the why is the hardest part of a situationship, especially, like you said, if you're the stepping stone, what did they have? And that's where I think it's all in a guy's timing. It's on if they say yes, they say yes. But you know what? The best advice I've ever had, if you're ever thinking why, you have to make up your own storyline. Yeah. Make up your own closure.
Yeah, so that's for what I did,
yeah, you have to, because you can't think why. I have had to make up my own closure of he isn't ready yet. He came across that he was emotionally mature, but he's not. If he's ghosted me, he could have just said ages ago on a phone call, look, we're not suited.
He sounded like a people pleaser.
Yeah, he's people pleased. He's said everything I want to hear. He's left me there just in case. He hasn't fully ever said, no, Daisy, you're not the one for me. And I just think I've had to make up my own storyline for closure, and I think that's really important to do.
Yeah, and I wasn't innocent in mine at all. The way that I ended it with him was brutal, really, really brutal. I said the words on board, which is just brutal, and I definitely should never have done that. But even when I ended it and I was like, on board, and he was like, well, there's nothing I can do if you're bored. And I was like, well, yeah. He still kind of said, I was happy with how it was going. Like, I was happy to do what we were doing for how long, what?
Yeah.
How long, what? We were going to do this for a year. And then I was going to be, thrown out. And now, look, where was it going? When does the situationship supposed to end?
This is the thing. How do you bring it to an end? Because the one in the summer came to a sudden end that I ended up being a little bit upset about. Like, why couldn't we have carried on? We were having so much fun. But it was at a point where we were like, we've done this for 3 months. It either has to turn into a relationship, which it wasn't going to with a 21-year-old, or we have to say, like, that's it. That was fun whilst it lasted.
Yeah, it's just a situationship. I just don't think you should get in them, and I do think it helps if you don't sleep with them early on. And I'm not one to say that because I slept with him early on, but I do think if for me anyway, because I gave it up so easily, he just didn't want to see me in a way that he was like, that's going to be my girlfriend then, because she'd been on dates and we're chilling. I was like, one date, you don't like me, you ended it, have sex with me. I'm not showing that I'm a high quality woman by doing that.
Yeah,
because I'm just telling him, like, you rejected me. I'll have sex with you.
Do you think you did that?
Yeah.
Because it was like, I need to be that feeling of wanted.
Which we will get onto in another episode, but as a fearful avoidant, we use sex as a way of validating how that they still like us. I thought it might be because of my weight, but if he sleeps with me, it can't be.
Fair
He's
enough.
got to fancy me.
It makes
if
sense.
If he sleeps with me, yeah, which is still not the case. Men will sleep with women for a lot of different reasons.
Any hole's a goal.
Any hole's a goal for a man. But that's the reason. Every time he slept with me, I was like, well, he must still like me. But if he liked you enough, Shani, then you'd be his girlfriend, and he wasn't. So
yeah, and I think it's sometimes can be tough to be like, if he liked you enough, he would, which is true. But again, I still think they need to be in the right mindset, and a lot of the time, men just are not in the right mindset. They've got the time, haven't they? They can sit back and chill. You know, the amount of late 30s that are just looking for their first person, still wanting kids, but women can't think like that. Not as much anyway, not as freely. And then another type of situationship are people that probably have something else on the go, or a cheeky little girlfriend or wife. So I've been in a situation where I knew nothing about this other girl. Been quite a few of these, but a situationship. I dated someone from October to December. It was a while ago. The one, actually, the 28-year-old that told me I was too young for him at the time, so I was 22. So we were next door neighbours in London. Technically, we were in the same house, but obviously this landlord at one point had just been a little genius and had split them into 2 flats. So you go upstairs in his and then I'm the flat. So we often had house parties and stuff. Anyway, before I ever knew who he was, one day we came through the gate together. He let me in to my gate and I was like, he's cute. I left a note through his letterbox. Hi, guy next door. Are you single?
Oh my
From
God,
girl next door.
Daisy, you amaze me every time you hear
I was on the graft at 22, mate.
She's just got the balls of flipping iron.
Next day, letter through my door. GND, which is girl next door. Hi, what guy do you mean? There's 2 of us. Love. Guys next door. Another letter from me. Hi, the one with the glasses. So I put, here's my number if you're interested. He WhatsApped me the next day. So obviously it was so much fun.
This is so
I
sad, because this is like a film.
We went to the bar, which was Chiswick Fire Station. So it was like the new bar at the time. We had a great time. We obviously walked home together, went into our separate doors, said goodbye. It was quite awkward. Then he texted me and was like, oh, I've actually got a bottle upstairs if you fancy it. And I was like updating my housemate at the time. So I was like, come drink with my housemate. So me, my housemate and him were all drinking. Naturally, he stayed the night at mine. It was a great night. And we ended up seeing each other. So he was filming for Love Island at the time. So he wasn't on it. He was the camera op.
Okay.
And yeah, so he was like flying like back and forth to Mallorca. You know, I love a videographer. We learnt that in episode 1.
That's so true.
I love videographers. Got so many stories of guys with cameras. I love it. Guy behind the camera.
I wish I was getting this much action as a videographer.
That or a tradie, do you know what I mean? So he's like, you know, texting me like, I'm at the airport now. Let's order in tonight. So we had a really nice little 3 months. Anyway, it gets towards Christmas time and I'm like, look, it's my birthday on the 2nd of Jan, so I need to know where we're at. Like, do I stay home with family or shall we spend the day together? Because we were just having so much fun. He was like, I got his essay back. I'll never forget it. I just cried on my bed. I was like, to my housemate, Dex, what is going on all of the time? He sends me his long essay. This is probably the right time to tell you. I've actually been seeing someone for the last few months, but she's been away filming a different TV show. So I should probably end it here because she's 32, she's more my age, we've always had a thing, like it's been a girl at work that I've fancied for ages, we've never been single at the same time, this is our one chance to try it. She went away, she knew that probably we'd part ways a bit, but yeah, I can't go any further with you, you're a great girl, etc, 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 I'm so sorry. Get this, the next day, a blonde girl
No way.
leaves his flat as I'm leaving. So I'm like, oh, hi, were you here for Bill? That's my name, and Bill. And she's like, oh, yeah. I was like, oh, are you the girl that's been seeing him for a few months? She goes, no, I just went home with him yesterday after a party. So there was another girl.
Stop
Another girl.
it also, why did he text saying this is our only chance? Because I don't care about your life story, I really don't. Just tell me you're seeing someone, let's just end it. Why are you giving me your life story and trying to make me feel guilty for you and sad that this is your one chance with you and this girl? But apparently now I've got another blonde girl who doesn't look like she's filming anything to Meg. Yeah. You absolute dirty dog next door.
Dirty dog.
Right next door. That is so annoying.
So that's where a situationship can come. I think if you're just like a side thing during a situation that he had. Anyway, they lasted for a few years, but they're not together now. But that was a horrible one. I was so young that I was like too young to like understand what had happened, because that was like the first ever time for me that someone had spent a good 3 months seeing me, dating me officially, that I thought we were anyway, and then it turning out to be like a complete con. And then I guess from there, nothing's ever really ever changed.
Well, I think that although we can say, I think when it's more casual and it's not quite a situationship, great. But I just don't think there's many times where a situationship works or makes you feel good at the end of it. Exactly. So why do we keep getting into them? Why do we get into them with the hope maybe that it's with the hope that this one will be different and this one will go somewhere? Because it feels like we're kind of letting, as we spoke about in episode 2, that's surely crossing our boundaries. This is then us getting into situationships and not expecting the man to put any sort of commitment on it. That's got to be going against our boundaries. So why do we keep doing it?
It's a self-worth thing, and I'm torn here, Sean. I'm actually torn because we're high quality women. We're going for high quality men. We've done all this self-work, but also, babe, people have needs.
True.
So where do you and I want to stay a high quality female, so I don't want to but we do have needs. So sometimes, if you're single all year, you want to be dating someone at some point and have a little bit of intimacy going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and as women, we do prefer, to get to know somebody or know them or feel safe. Feel safe with someone that we're sleeping with, and we feel safe when it's just the same person over and over again. But I think the sex is, for me anyway, took away my boundaries that I wouldn't put up with that whole situation. Now it would have been cut off. He wouldn't have got the booty call. If it was now, he wouldn't have got the booty call. I can tell you that, would not have got the booty call. But yeah, like you said, I feel the same, like I'm torn. I see why we do it, but I just wish that we didn't, because I feel like we give a lot of power away when we're doing situationships.
And you're right, it's in the hope that you think you can change the guy's mind, but I think at the end of the day, we all know deep down that if a guy isn't sure, take that as your answer. And that's what I've learned in my most recent situationship. Why did I not listen the first time? Instead, I've let it go on. So actually, I've just been torturing myself. It's my fault that he's now it's not my fault that he's ghosted me, but it's my fault how it's ended, because I shouldn't have even let it get there. I lived in hope that he would just be like, actually, no, yeah, Daisy's great. She has loads going for her. But you can't make a guy see that. And I think situationships, you try to, by giving them what they want, keeping it casual. I'm such a chilled girl.
I'm so chilled. I actually don't care if you get with anybody. What, you on a date right now? I'm so chilled.
It's just casual, babe.
It's so casual. Just the sex for me, please. Wine? No, thank you. Just the sex.
Honestly.
We just want to act like the chilliest girls ever.
I know. It's just not it.
It's just not the case. It's really, really not the case.
I think they're more common now because of, really, if you say to your nan, or to be fair, even our parents, they'd be like, what's a situationship? What the hell is this? I mean, my mum can't understand for the life of her how if you go on one date, why they're not your boyfriend. That's how it worked back then. So a situationship, I think it's the problem is the choice that we have. People just aren't committing to one great person.
They think the grass is greener.
Yeah, and you can just go back on, you can have a great date with someone from Bumble, Tinder, wherever. But then you get home, you can scroll on your phone again, and you're back to square one, meeting, swiping other people. The choice has definitely made situationships more common.
Yeah, I think so. Men don't want to commit. And, some girls do. I'm very much a commitment phobe as well. And I'm not great with commitment, obviously, because he asked me to be exclusive and I slept with somebody that night. Because I get very freaked. I asked for the commitment. I was like, Are we exclusive? He said, yeah. And I was like, ah. And then I slept with somebody because I was like, I don't like the commitment. It's too scary.
Yeah, and I think that's where...
So I see why, because I'm a commitment phobe too. So I understand that men are feeling that way too. But I also don't think the grass is greener. That was me just freaking out. I don't think the grass is greener. I didn't think the grass was greener than him at the time. But I'm glad that it happened, because now I can see we wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
And although he had a lot of great qualities, but Yeah, it's the living in hope and it's the romanticising, I think, that you get from situationships. After going through it and talking about situationships, do you think, even though we say make up a excuse in your head and make up your narrative, do you think you're going to feel closure, or do you still think you're going to be wonder about this, about Bill, and wonder what if with Bill?
I think it's really difficult if he was to text me in a few months when he reckons his headspace and his life is going to be in a better place. It will be hard to be like, no. But for me, this is done, in that it's done. Like, I really saw his worth from the beginning. Like, I think he's got so much going for him. I could list it. And he, like you thought about Bob, these names are killing. Like you thought about Bob, this could be it. And maybe he thought that about you as well. I went to my mum and sister the next day after our 4th day and was like, I think this is it. This is how it's meant to feel. It's easy.
So
his communication
sad.
is unreal. We just spark. We get on. Everything about it is so good. Our families are very similar. Everything. The list of what I'm looking for, he had.
So the answer is
we
you
had.
probably will continue to think what if, and that's what's hard to think about situationship.
Yeah, I think so. But I feel strong enough that he should have seen everything that I've got going for me
100%.
in that time. And I do think there'll be some guys listening, and maybe girls, if you've related to what we've said about guys, that will be like, well, I wasn't in the right headspace, but still met maybe their partner. I think if it really is right, I think someone can get over
I
the
truly
phase that they're
believe
in.
that, yeah. I truly believe if a girl's going to bowl you over, she will bowl you over no matter what headspace you're in, and you'll be bowled over by them, and you'll be like, this is the one. Like you said, how you felt, this is what it's supposed to feel like. He should feel like that too, and if he did, it would have been a different outcome. And I think I'll still think what if, because I am completely different now to when I first met him mentally and physically. But I think the universe gave me enough to be like, one, there's other men out there that you can get on with, and two, like he didn't deserve you. If he didn't want you at my biggest when I was going through a condition medically and needing all this medication, then you don't get to have me when I'm healthy and I've been given like a new lease on life and stuff. So
I think that's really good. Yeah. And every time I think about him, I'm like, nope, just think of it as it shows that there's men that I'm looking for out there.
And you know what, like one of your best traits is being forgiving. You're a very forgiving person, and you should never lose that, and I hope that never goes because of like situations like this with men like this. But you're so forgiving, and a partner will really love that about you in the future.
Yeah. Would you do a situationship again?
No, you'll never see me in one again.
Wow. Gosh, I love this. You learn your lessons and you're going with it.
Yeah, no, you'll date me, and then we'll stop dating because it's not right, or we'll get in a relationship. I ain't doing the middle thing again. Never again. I might have a casual like fling, but never a situationship where we're basically dating but we're not. Never again will somebody get me in that again.
Go.
What about
girl.
you?
Every time I'm feeling a little bit soft, I've got to text you up and I don't think so, unless it is completely on my terms like it was last summer, which I think was just rare because he was younger. I wouldn't be able to do it with someone my age that could potentially be a partner. So I don't think so. But if I was, it would have to be on my terms like it was in the summer, because that's what made it fun.
And you're not left with terrible memories from that little fling.
So my finale question is, what advice would you give yourself looking back on that situation?
If I was back, like, to give to her back then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, I feel sorry for her.
It's really, I think, a powerful place though when you look back and feel sorry for that self of you.
Yeah, I feel sorry for her, and I wish I could say, like, you don't need to have sex with Bob. It's mine, Bob. You don't have to have sex with Bob to make you feel better, to make you mean that you're worthy. You don't have to have sex with Bob because you had a lot more going for you, really. And you'll feel better after it, and the feeling that you have still now, it was not worth it just to say that you had sex with him and that he must like you and fancy you.
Yeah.
So if I could go back, I'd just be like, you don't need to have sex with him to feel better. You can do it in other ways. You can feel better because you're great.
Oh, I feel sorry for old self.
I feel
you.
sorry for
Your
her
old self.
so much.
Oh, it's great though. You can see your growth so much. Which
She'd
is
be
great.
proud of me now, I think.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Well, what me?
Yeah.
My advice.
She tried to
Oh,
get out
I
of
did,
it.
because yours was so good. I was like, I can't really beat that. I don't. You know what? My advice would be, you said I was forgiving. So in my last year, I'm happy with how I dealt with myself and that situationship. We can still have banter now. Like, he might be in Bali when I'm in Bali. And we're just like,
We'll keep
cool.
you updated on that one.
Yeah, we will. For me, the most recent one, I think I was I've lost a few of my boundaries, which I actually did with the guy I spoke about in episode 1. As in, I know I'm strong enough to know that if he doesn't like me enough to, you know, be seeing me again for the next date, I shouldn't be entertaining him. So I think, you know, if he was to call my phone now, I would be in a place where I wouldn't answer. So I think just maybe...
Respect your boundaries.
Yeah,
like
respecting
Daisy,
boundaries, yeah.
Respect your boundaries.
And understand where I'm being a bit too forgiving versus, you know, actually going against my morals and then having boundaries.
Yeah, and that'll be hard to do, but I think if you remember this, and that's genuinely the advice you'd give to your past self, you should remember that going forward.
Yeah. Nice lessons.
Yeah, nice little lessons.
Thank you so much for listening. We're Daisy Dates Podcast across all platforms. We'd love you to share it, like it. Give us a message as well, whoever you are, whatever situation you're in. Let us know your thoughts if you're in a situationship. If you need any advice, if you have a dilemma, we want to hear from you.
And our DMs are always open and we're always chatting to people. Daisy's always chatting to people in the DMs and we love speaking to you. So feel free if you need some advice to message us.
Absolutely. See you next time.
Bye.